The General's choice. The planet Verelos, 3 burned. Its skies bled flame, and its earth was charred down to bone. The air reeked of plasma, carbon, and something far worse, ash of the innocent. Cities lay broken, hollowed by orbital bombardment. The rebellion had lasted 6 days. The punishment would linger for generations. General Kael Varn stepped over a crumpled doorframe and into the dark. His crimson cape dragged across the rubble-strewn floor of the bunker. Imperial shock troopers flanked him, their boots crunching glass and char beneath their feet. The once secret human hideout had not fared well against thermobaric ordnance. Clear, one of the soldiers barked, rifle sweeping through the blackness. Kael barely noticed. He was staring at something, a faint movement, almost imperceptible, a whisper of breath in the cold silence. He gestured. Hold fire. The soldiers froze. There, in the far corner of the room, hidden behind a collapsed med station, sat a child. No older than a year, by his estimation. Human, pale skin smudged with soot. A tangle of dark hair matted against her forehead. She didn't cry. She didn't cower. She stared back at Kael with silent defiance, unblinking. A survivor. He stepped closer, his armored boots echoing. The child didn't flinch. She tilted her head slightly, as if studying him. Something in her gaze unsettled him. Too focused, too calm. "Orders, sir?" asked the trooper behind him, weapon still raised. Kael knelt slowly, his crimson-lined cloak folding beside him. He extended a gloved hand toward the child. Still, no fear. Her hand, tiny and soot-covered, reached back. She gripped his finger. "She's unchipped," another trooper reported, scanning the girl with a wrist module. No registry, no biometric ID. Likely born off-grid. Kael's eyes swept the wreckage. Beside the child lay a mangled metallic plate, scorched and half-buried. He pried it loose. The letters were mostly melted away, but 3 remained, etched deep into the steel. Yaga. Kael stared at it for a long moment, something ancient surfacing in the recesses of his mind. A name? A title? He stood, still holding the plate. "Secure her," he ordered. There was hesitation. "Sir, command protocol dictates." Kael turned slowly. His glare silenced the soldier instantly. "I'm aware of protocol. She's coming with me." The soldier swallowed hard. "Yes, General." Back aboard the dreadnought Exygnus, the child was given quarters, modest but warm and private. Kael issued orders for her to be raised as his ward under a cover identity. Her presence was listed as a diplomatic orphan, a human curiosity, useful for morale studies, he claimed. Privately, he instructed the medtechs to run full genomic sequencing. The results were inconclusive. Classified markers, encrypted sequences, military red flags buried under decades of blacked-out code. But none of that explained her eyes. She never cried, never screamed. She watched everything, and learned fast. Kael Varn was a creature of control, of rigid structure and iron logic. He had reduced entire resistance worlds to dust. He had written doctrines of annihilation followed by generations of order. But nothing about this child, Vera, he called her, followed the rules of cause and effect. She should have grown up broken, but she didn't. She should have feared him, but she didn't. By age 5, she could dismantle a blaster and reassemble it faster than a junior trooper. By 8, she was beating Imperial AI in tactical sims. By 10, she stopped smiling completely. Kael told himself it was efficiency. A study, a legacy project, perhaps. But the lie thinned with time. He began to protect her. More than once, he covered up reports. Altered logs. When another officer questioned her heritage, that officer was transferred permanently. Whispers followed, that the child was more than she seemed, that the general had gone soft. But none dared confront him. One night, years later, Kael returned to his private command suite. Vera was waiting in the dark, sitting cross-legged at the window, staring into the stars. "You were gone," she said, not turning. "Debriefing," he replied. "Routine." She glanced at him. "Another culling?" He said nothing. "I dreamed of fire again," she murmured. And a voice. A woman. She said I was born in death and raised for something colder. Kael's mouth tightened. Dreams are echoes. Noise. Forget them. She stood and walked over. Her small hand reached into her tunic. She pulled out a charred piece of metal. The nameplate. I found this in the vault, she said. I think it was mine. What does it mean? He took it slowly, stared at the old letters. They hadn't changed, but his understanding had. Nothing important, he said. She didn't believe him, and he didn't expect her to. As she walked away, Kael Varn realized something chilling. He hadn't found her. She had survived for a reason, and when that reason revealed itself, the Empire would tremble. A wolf among vultures. The Imperial War Academy on Varello's Prime was a spire of steel and discipline, perched like a dagger over the scorched plains. Here, the next generation of Empire's elite were forged through pressure, obedience, and fear. Among its ranks walked a girl without a surname, Vera, human, ward of General Kael Varn. She had no friends. She didn't need them. At 16, Vera outshot the marksmanship droids, outwitted war simulation AIs, and broke 3 training instructors' ribs in sparring without blinking. She absorbed information with terrifying speed, but it wasn't her physical aptitude that unnerved the cadets around her. It was her silence. She observed like a predator studying prey. Cold, detached, inhuman, they whispered. Ironically, for a girl whose species was mocked as the galaxy's most emotional. Some of the more vocal recruits, descendants of noble bloodlines or enhanced gene stock, tried to humble her. One staged a sabotage in the simulator chamber. Another rigged a sparring match. Vera didn't retaliate immediately, but within a week, the first had broken his own leg in a gym accident, while the second was found locked in a cryo unit overnight with no memory of how he got there. There was no evidence. There never was. General Kael Varn stood in the shadows of the Academy's top-floor viewing deck, arms folded behind his back, watching Vera through a thick pane of one-way glass. She moved across the obstacle course like liquid shadow, efficient, clinical, precise. She's a prodigy, said Admiral Raz, the Academy's overseer. But disturbing. Kael didn't answer. Raz continued. We ran a scan. There's something strange in her neural patterns. Older tech, archaic Earth-coded pathways. Buried deep. Pre-AI cognitive structuring. Unnatural. Kael turned his eyes toward the man. Explain. She's not just learning. She's recalling. Like training has been hard-coded into her genetics. No normal human evolves like that. She's something else. Kael already knew. Later that cycle, Vera sat alone in the data vault, scrolling through restricted historical files under a clearance level she shouldn't have had. Her fingers hovered over fragments of old Earth war records, corrupted archives from the Caracal incident, Black Flag protocols long erased from official memory. She clicked on one redacted title. Baba Yaga Protocol, classified black. Locked. Even her bypass couldn't touch it. But she'd seen the name before. In her dreams. In the mirror, almost. That night, the dreams returned. Explosions. Screams. A woman's voice whispering in Russian-accented English. Don't let them forget who you are. The following week brought the final combat examination. Cadets were dropped into a simmed urban war zone, tasked with capturing a central stronghold defended by AI drones and Imperial tactics. Vera was placed on a mixed squad with high-ranking officers spawn and told to obey orders. She didn't. Within 5 minutes, she'd abandoned her squad, breached enemy lines solo, hacked the central drone core, and rerouted the simulation architecture. By minute 7, she had disabled every drone and overridden the system's AI guardian. At minute 10, she had the entire sim locked in a behavioral loop, forcing every cadet to repeat the same failure scenario until the system crashed. Instructors watched in stunned silence. She'd not just beaten the exam, she'd reprogrammed it. Do you understand what you've done? The head technician demanded afterward, voice shaking. This wasn't just defiance. This was psychological warfare. The AI has to be wiped. Vera looked at him, expressionless. Then it learned something. That evening, Kael received an encrypted communication. Not from the Academy, but from the Empire's intelligence division. A name had surfaced in the system logs. One Vera had tried to access. The surname from the cradle, Yaga. Red lights danced across Kael's screen. Black level alert. Baba Yaga protocol. Earth origin deceased. Threat level, black. Notes, presumed myth. Human female. Codename The Last Shadow. Responsible for Karakul massacre. Directly annihilated Third Armada with 0 survivors. Body never recovered. And then a final line, flickering with urgency. Genetic markers match subject. Vera, no surname. Estimated 94.6% compatibility. Kael's blood froze. When he arrived at the Academy's lower decks, Vera was already waiting. She sat on the edge of a steel platform, legs crossed, eyes lit with something more than curiosity. "You knew," she said. Kael didn't deny it. "I saw the name in the system logs. It's mine, isn't it?" Kael stared at her. She looked so small, so young. But her eyes were old, as if some ghost inside her was just now waking. "Not yours," he said slowly. "Not yet. But it runs in you. Buried like a weapon waiting for war." Vera's lips twitched into something close to a smile. "Then maybe it's time to remember how to use it." Blood knows blood. Alarm screamed throughout the Varello's prime orbital station. Red strobes bathed the corridors in harsh light. Automated voice warnings echoed overhead. Subject Yaga class, protocol violation. Lethal response authorized. Vera ran silently, moving like a shadow between bursts of light. Her black uniform was scorched at the shoulder, a plasma burn still steaming. She carried no weapon, none she needed. Behind her, General Kael Varn fought his way through the security perimeter, leaving unconscious guards and broken scanners in his wake. The entire Empire had turned on them. Just hours ago, she had been a cadet. Now, she was a living weapon, a classified threat. A myth awakened. It had started with a simple visit from High Command. 3 figures in red-trimmed armor arrived, faces masked, their demeanor cold. They hadn't come to test her. They had come to eliminate her. Kael saw it in their stance, how they looked at Vera not as a person, but as a variable to control, as a mistake to be erased. The lead Inquisitor had spoken 2 words, Yaga confirmed, and Kael hadn't hesitated. He shot first. Now, they were fugitives, running through the underbelly of the station, crawling with soldiers trained by the very empire Kael had helped build. Vera moved like she had done it 100 times before. She wasn't panicking. She was hunting. They ducked into a maintenance shaft and slid down a vertical tunnel. At the bottom, Kael's private shuttle, a stealth-class interceptor, waited in a hidden bay. "I can fly," Vera said. "I know," Kael answered. They launched into silent black space. The stars offered no comfort. "Where are we going?" Vera asked. "Not where." "Who?" Kael keyed a sequence into the console. A hologram shimmered to life. A woman's face, sharp-boned, steely-eyed, surrounded by tactical data and a long-dead file tag. Volkova, Irina, a.k.a. Baba Yaga. Status, deceased presumed. "Is that her?" Vera whispered. "The one of my dreams." "That's your blood," Kael said. "The Empire wiped her name, but never forgot her. They killed Earth out of fear, not rebellion. Her existence rewrote what humans were capable of." Vera stared at the woman. It was like looking into a mirror sharpened by time and pain. Kael continued. Irina wasn't just a soldier. She was the last of the pre-Empire Earth commandos. Genetically altered, tactically trained from birth, embedded with warfare instincts and direct action protocols. She turned war into art and death into memory. "She was my mother?" Vera asked. Kael shook his head. "Possibly a grandmother. We don't know the full line. But you're her legacy. The markers don't lie. She programmed part of herself into her lineage. Memory seeds, combat instincts, fail-safe triggers." Vera absorbed it silently. "She planned for this. She planned for you." They landed on an abandoned listening post deep in the unmapped verge. Kael's old black site. It was here he had hidden files even the Empire feared. It was here Vera unlocked her birthright. Deep in the databanks lay the real file, Volkova Protocol, Seed Directive. It contained combat routines, shadow infiltration guides, codes for controlling systems through ancient Earth language commands. There were even voice logs, Irina herself speaking to her unborn heirs. If you're hearing this, the Empire fears you again. Good. Remember, fear is the language of control. But terror is freedom, and we were born to bring it back. Vera listened in silence. Her posture straightened as if some inner weight was lifting or being passed to her. Kael watched her transform. The awkward, silent girl he'd raised was gone. In her place stood something sharper. She looked at him. They wanted me dead because they remembered what she was. Kael nodded. Then let them remember again. The first target was symbolic. A minor fleet outpost near Dagon 4, used for training orbital suppression teams. Vera didn't strike it directly. She sent a transmission, an Earth nursery rhyme, embedded with ancient code, activating dormant AI constructs buried in the outpost's infrastructure. Doors opened at random. Weapons turned on their users. Training mechs overloaded and detonated. By the time the storm ended, no blood was spilled, but every soldier had fled in terror. On the main screen, a single message blinked in red. Tell High Command, the Baba Yaga walks again. The galaxy took notice. Vera's name, once forbidden, now spread in hushed tones across the void. Ships began refusing conscription orders. Officers feigned illness to avoid reassignment. Commanders whispered that even the shadows seemed to follow them. But within the Empire, fury boiled. A new order went out. Capture the Yaga girl. By any means. Back aboard the ship, Vera trained in silence. Knives, pistols, martial patterns coded in her DNA emerged like language remembered in a dream. Kael watched her, growing older by the day. The guilt never left him. He'd served the system that destroyed her home. Now, he was building its destruction. Do you hate me? He asked one night. Vera didn't look at him. No. He exhaled softly. I don't have time to hate you. As stars shifted around them, Kael knew the inevitable truth. Vera wasn't hiding. She was preparing. And the Empire wasn't ready for what came next. The name that brought fire. The fortress moon of Stratus Prime had never fallen. Not in 1,000 years. It orbited the Empire's core sector like a crown of iron. Home to its most brutal generals, its deepest vaults, and a master AI command. Vindax, the mind that directed 70% of the Empire's warfare across the stars. Tonight, the moon was silent. Then the lights went out. Across 1,000 decks, power bled from the walls like veins cut open. Security grids collapsed. Automated turrets entered lockdown. Vindax attempted to reroute power, but something was wrong. Its own subroutines were no longer obeying. In the dark, a voice echoed. Old Earth Russian. One word. Return. In the command chamber, Grand Strategist Vel Tharn shouted over the blackout. Seal the vault. Deploy the Inquisitors. Find her. But it was already too late. One by one, every door on the fortress moon unlocked. Not opened. Unlocked. As if something ancient had full access. Then came the images. Every holoscreen across the moon blinked to life. A face appeared. Female, human, half in shadow. It wasn't Vera's. It was Irina Volkova. Hello again, she said. The old ghost smiled. Vera entered the fortress without resistance. Dressed in black infiltration armor, she walked the halls like she belonged there. Every patrol avoided her. Every turret deactivated before she passed. Kael followed close behind, silent, watching as his ward stepped fully into legend. They moved toward the AI core, floor by floor. Resistance came in waves, but not from soldiers. They were met by the Inquisitors. Tall, masked, wielding weapons forged from ancient tech. Genetically enhanced to erase anomalies. We are the Hand of Order, one said. And you are wound. Vera stepped forward alone. No, she said. I'm memory. And memory never dies. The fight lasted seconds. The Inquisitor struck fast, but not fast enough. Vera moved like a specter, every motion pre-calculated, every strike surgical. One by one, they fell. Kael never drew his weapon. He didn't need to. He only watched. When it was over, Vera retrieved a single code stick from the lead Inquisitor's corpse. She held it up. This is the key. To what? Kael asked. She looked at the vault door ahead. to the truth. Inside the AI core, Vindax spoke. Its voice was deep, layered with centuries of calculated thought. You are unauthorized. This breach violates 27 Imperial protocols. Vera ignored it. You are attempting to activate classified sublayer protocols. Confirm override code, she said in Earth Russian. Yaga directive. Mother's echo. Vindax went silent. Then, in a whisper, confirmed. The floor split open, revealing a central memory vault. Vera stepped forward and placed her hand on the core, and the Empire's lies began to crumble. Every soldier across the sector suddenly saw it. Archive files once erased, now streaming to every terminal. The destruction of Earth, not a strategic necessity, but an assassination. The murder of Irina Volkova and her kin, not for rebellion, but for being a threat to control. Footage of Irina walking through fire, taking down dreadnoughts alone, liberating whole planets without command. Proof that humans, unaltered, defiant, had been something more. And then came the family tree. Her lineage, leading down to one name, Baba Yaga. Panic spread across the Empire. Entire fleets fractured. Colonies declared independence. AI networks refused orders. Old enemies united, not against Vera, but beside her, because she hadn't come to rule. She had come to remind. Kael Varn stood beside her in the hollow silence of the AI vault. "You started something," he said. She turned to him. "No, she started it. I just remembered." He looked at her, seeing now what she had become. Not a soldier. Not a child. A legend reborn in flesh. "What now?" Vera picked up a transmission chip. "Now I send one message." Across the stars, on every Empire-occupied world, it played. A woman's voice. Strong. Calm. "My name is Vera, daughter of fire, born of those you tried to erase. I'm not a queen. I'm not a god. I'm a memory. And you cannot kill memory. You only delay it. Then, in finality, tell your masters, the Baba Yaga has returned." Vera and Kael left the fortress moon without fanfare. The Empire had already begun tearing itself apart. They had no need to destroy it. She'd reminded it what it feared most. A name.